Okay, so we're now recording. So I guess the point of this meeting is we're supposed to talk about all the points we identified with, I forgot his name for the study. But did you all get to see the video?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I actually printed out the transcript, went through that because it's easier for me that way, but I did watch a little of the video also.
Nice. You guys think that Jimmy really isn't doing anything?
Oh, good question. That's a very good question.
Yeah. What was your question? I didn't actually hear
it. If you guys think Jimmy really is not doing anything, like he claims.
I don't know. I think he was pretty, or trying to be honest.
Yeah.
I think he had a typical reaction of, I kind of felt like he was ganged up on a little bit there, but I thought it was interesting when the therapist brought out that he was actually feeling like his family didn't like him and that they thought he was the problem causer and things like that. And he was actually feeling hurt in the situation. And that was the reason he was like even isolating himself even more and being, because I'm sorry, I'm 57 years old. He's being a kid. I mean, he doesn't know yet. He doesn't know how to express. He hasn't learned, and unless you have a, therapist for parents, the parents probably didn't know either. So.
Right. So it says in the instructions, we're all supposed to just kind of take a turn at pointing out what we found.
Right.
So do you guys want to just do that?
Yeah. We certainly can. I guess I'll go first if that's okay. So just reading on chapter 6, I kind of wrote all the belief system and then the organizational process and communication process. I wrote that down and kind of starred next to the ones I thought the therapist hit. So I thought he normalized, contextualized the stress, common, understandable in adverse situations. So I felt like he was trying to empathize and understand. Like he tried getting to know Jimmy with his skateboarding and asked him what his favorite moves were. So just kind of trying to understand everybody. He recognized this was a shared challenge. So even though it's the parent.
Sorry to interrupt. Are we supposed to be taking notes on this?
So the last 15 minutes we're supposed to do that. Just one person supposed
Only one person.
And then that one person is supposed to submit it.
Yeah, so who's that one person? Oh, Judith. Okay, awesome. I'm glad that's great. Okay. All right, sorry to interrupt. Go for it.
You're good. So I think the therapist told everyone this is a shared challenge, even though it's Jimmy and parents, he knew every bit was involved and it affected everybody in the family. I can't exactly remember, but he said something about spirituality. Do you guys remember anything about that?
Yeah, I do.
What did he say about that? I can't remember.
I couldn't remember that he brought anything in about that it was.
Yeah, he did.
At the very end when he mostly hit base on
when he was giving them the solution or challenging them to.
Yeah, he said, I believe that parents actually can receive extra help. I'll even say from the other side. I think that whether you're religious or not. That was in the end, kind of near the end.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then he gave possibilities of things they can do, go on a date. I really liked how he'd ask the wife to ask the husband to ask his wife out on a date, and then ask for the siblings to get together to kind of mend what's being torn apart. So I like that he did that. I liked how he mentioned the teamwork between the spouses, even though they're like kind of struggling right now because of the situation. He like the couple were holding hands, and then he like redirects like even though the mother expresses more worries than the husband, they are a team. So I like that. And I thought it was pretty clear messages, is clarifying. Everyone shared painful experiences of what the situation is causing each individual to feel. And then focus on goals such as like meeting next week and then talking about what I've asked you guys to do. I like that he did that. That's kind of me.
Okay.
Pretty much you just hit a lot of the
I was just saying, a lot of the same ones that I did. Yeah.
What I did was I actually labeled them. So can I go next? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, so in the beginning, he demonstrated positive interaction because he was trying to, get to know them better. He pointed out that they were having adjustment was another one. He pointed out to them that, they were going through a big adjustment. He was affirming their strengths when he asked Jimmy, what's your best trick? With the skateboarding. So that was affirming strengths. He used quite a bit of humor, I thought. And then so they had a big, huge section on emotional sharing, which is when he asked the family to tell how they really felt and describe what they felt about Jimmy's problem. And each one of them were, so the therapist at that time was using clarifying clarifying by sharing crucial information. And there was a lot of emotional sharing going on at that time. Expressing painful emotions when the mom said, I'm tired, I'm upset because he hasn't been answering any of my calls. There was a lot of emotional sharing, I thought. And then the father shared emotionally also how he felt. Clear communication. He was trying to get them to communicate a little more clear about how they really felt, why do you feel that way, and just digging a bit. And the therapist would often say, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I'm hearing. So
I like that he did that. That was, to me, was a real good therapy, because he was not only clarifying what he heard, but he was also clarifying for the group of what, in case they didn't understand what the person was saying.
Yeah, clarifying. He did really good at that, I thought. Let's see. Oh, and he did planning for the future. Because he helped them set goals, like let's go on a date, let's take your sister out for a date. And hold on, I gotta get my glasses. Oh, making meaning. He made meaning out of, he said, it's tough for us to let each other know in a way that's easy to understand and get it. Instead, we all just feel bad, and then we end up acting out of character. So he's trying to make meaning out of all this that's going on. Making meaning. I'm not sure what category that fell under. I can't remember. communication by problem solving. And he kept saying, well, I'm just a therapist. You guys are the family. You guys are going to know what the solution is. You know, you guys are going to be the ones that come up with the solution. And then normalizing, he did that really well. He kept saying, when he talked about the grizzly bear, he's like, yeah, this is what moms do. They'll kill for their babies. You know, so he kind of was normalizing the mom's behavior and saying, yeah, a mom is going to act, you know, frightened for her child if her child is, you know, if she thinks her child is in a threatened position. He fostered connections by helping the mother and dad know that they were a team. And also he talked about how the father, you know, the father really loves the mother, and that's why he's trying to help her with this problem, is because he feels like, you know, he wants to help her because he loves her. He doesn't really feel like it's a big problem, but his wife does, and he's trying to help her. And then he fostered connectedness between family members, between the mom and the daughter. He talked about how women think, and then so he was fostering connection between the two women. And then he talked about how men think. So that helped to foster a connection between the man, you know, the son and the father. Oh, and then he talked about a genogram, when he said, oh, so he's talking to the father. The therapist is talking to the father. And the father is talking about how he was raised. And then the therapist says, oh, your parents were a little distant, kind of not real involved. And the father says, yeah. So that's like, you know, going back generations. We talked about transcendence and spirituality. They did brainstorming, family organizational process. So they did some brainstorming about how they could reconnect. He helps them keep a positive outlook by envisioning a better future and by giving them assignments. He affirms their potential and teaches them that their efforts can make a difference. And then he fosters family resilience by saying that it's a continual process of change. Transitions are milestones. And yeah, that's all I had.
Nice.
For the sake of time, did anybody get anything different than what's already been stated?
No.
I think she pretty much covered it.
I was going to say, just in case I'm missing something, because I mean, both of you covered a lot of what I have on my. I'm looking through my. Did they cover that? Did they say that as we're going along? And I don't see anything that's been missed so far as that goes.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I would the only thing that comes to my mind is how the therapist talks about something that they used to do as a family. I don't know, maybe you guys already talked about that. No. But it talks about like the history and like the positive connection that the family had, like history wise, like, you know, when they used to go camping.
Right. What they did, like he asked them as a family, before this problem occurred, what did you do? Or even before they moved to Rexburg, what did you used to do to get the family together and on the same page?
I guess one thing that maybe wasn't mentioned.
Yeah, you're right. I think so.
Okay.
The one thing that I had that I maybe you did and I just missed it in what was said was, I thought that in the beginning when everybody came into the room, and they first sat down and they were introducing themselves, he expressed the family's flexibility in being able to come together for the greater cause of the family, that they were able to, you know, get their times together so that they could all come to the meeting, and that because he recognizes their schedule difficulties and things like that. And I think that showed the flexibility of the family and their willingness to, it also showed, what was it, the word I'm looking for, the cohesiveness of their family, that their core family, even though they're having this difficulty, it's important enough that they get together and try to resolve it rather than letting it continue to divide them.
Yeah, and they all came, even that, you know, even Jimmy, because he could have been the one that said, oh, I'm not going, you know. Right.
I just heard a show earlier today. I was at one of my clients' house, and there were some people on there, and they were talking about that they had agreed to go to therapy. It was like one of those reality things. And the guy said, well, I told her that I thought it was best that we go to therapy individually first, and then I just never went. I knew she would go, but I just never went and he was, you know, he wasn't accountable. And like you said, Jimmy, he could have said, I'm not going to go do this. You're just going to all hound on me and make me feel worse than I already feel, and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah.
I think that the reason, like, of what Heidi mentioned was about the geogram or whatever, about how the father was raised where, you know, he didn't have parents that were really active, like, just didn't really matter, like, care where he went type of thing. And it kind of reminded me of my parents, because my dad was kind of like that. Like, he was kind of like the dad who was like, yeah, go do whatever, but if you do something to lose my trust, then that's when I'll start, you know, getting more into your business type of thing. But my mom was complete opposite. She had to know everything. Like, it just kind of reminded me of my parents for some reason. But another point that was brought up was like in our reading of chapter 6, it talked about how families just don't cope with, like, stress very well. So there's different ways that you can react to it. Like, for example, the boy mentioned how his mom really kind of goes crazy from what he said. And so that's one way of how she deals with it compared to how the father does. So
the different methods of coping.
Yeah. Like Sadie is just, no family does well with stress, but there's different ways of how people go about it when it does happen.
The strategies. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the father's background, I feel like also helps him connect with his son, because he grew up without very much, like, you need to be home at this time, so he kind of lets his son grow up that way. So I feel like that's also why he doesn't see it that big of a deal as his mom's, because he can relate, like, hey, I used to live that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Great. So we have all the common points.
Yeah, he's like saying, I used to live that lifestyle and I turned out okay. So
yeah.
That's probably not a good thing to share with your children.
Yeah.
I remember, just totally tangent here, when we were raising our children, my husband, prior in his teenage years, he was a pot smoker. And he felt it necessary to share that with our children when they were teenagers. And we had one child who was experimental in nature. And she actually used you did it on multiple times when we confronted with that issue. And it was like, we should have never told her that, because then she has an excuse that, you know, you can't. But anyway, sometimes I think that can be used as an excuse too. Well, you did it, so why can't I? So you turned out okay. That's what she used to tell my husband. You turned out okay.
There was one point in the reading that it talked about, like, reducing negative, like, chain reactions. And when I was listening to the video and how the therapist was talking about the relationship between the husband and the wife, and how their relationship seemed fine, but like they argued kind of a lot. Not like I don't know, they had disagreements type of thing. And so to me, I felt like because they're having those disagreements or arguments so much, which is not a bad thing to have that. I've come to know that it's not a bad thing for children to see you disagree, because they need to know that not relationships are perfect, but they need to, I think by them doing it so much, it's causing effect to the children as well. It's making the boy feel like he needs to leave, or the girl feeling like she can't have that connection with this, like the brother, or even the parents. So that was one thing I did notice as well about the chain reaction of that.
Well, there needs to be some conflict resolution somewhere, and the kids need to be able to feel that, and they need to see that in the parents, that the parents are actually solving something rather than this is just another never-ending cycle of horror,
I think that's where I had the thought when Erica was talking, and then again when Heidi said that it becomes problematic. It's okay to have disagreements, but it becomes problematic when the disagreements are occurring all the time and there's not a resolution to that it shows up again and there's no resolution, and it shows up again, there's no resolution. And I think that's what probably drives us to therapy, maybe, is the lack of resolution to situations like that you got the chain reaction all the time. It keeps happening, but there's no resolution. There's no, what do we have as a family that are coping mechanisms and strengths that we can combine, and does that make sense?
Yeah, and they talked about hope in our readings too, and it's like, if you don't ever get a resolution, then you start to feel hopeless.
Yes,
that's why I felt like this therapist really gave them a lot of hope.
Correct.
I don't know if that was in this week's lesson.
No, it was, because I remember I underlined that in I'm trying to look for it to see where it was that that may be in chapter 7.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's in chapter 7 under encouraging a positive outlook, rekindling hope. And I thought that was a big, while being empathetic with the struggles of our clients when we are despairing, it is important to rekindle their hope, because hope fuels efforts to succeed. So, that was in chapter 7.
Yeah. Okay. So, so where do we go from here then?
Okay, so the next thing is we're supposed to, once we've come to that, we think we've discussed everything.
Wait. I never heard from Olivia much, or Lindsay. Do you guys have anything?
I just think that, like, we pretty much talked about everything, but I just feel like Jimmy, even, like, he didn't like the arguing. And I feel like maybe the daughter felt like the parents were arguing so much that the therapist said that she kind of takes charge of, like, being mom or whatever. And so maybe she felt like she just kind of had to be the mom because the parents just argued. And so she would try and control, not necessarily control Jimmy, but just, like, tell Jimmy, why are you doing this? Or be involved in Jimmy's life because everyone else was arguing about it.
Yeah, she was trying to help control the situation because she felt it was so out of control.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm all right. That help control situation.
Good point. Yeah. So, Olivia, do you have anything?
I put down a couple of things that I liked. I know how you guys just said that she liked to control the situation, but I remember it was the therapist that talked about how, like, he's that's just a therapist that ultimately they're going to be the ones to solve the problem and to reach a solution. with themselves, you know? And so I think with their communication, but I mean, the therapist can help, but ultimately they're going to be the ones that are going to do it, I guess.
Mhm.
I like also how the therapist reminded them like some techniques may not work. We'll have to like kind of experiment around, see what works better for the family. So I like how he kind of let them know like, hey, this situation, this what I asked you to do might not work. We have other things we can try, but like don't give up. So I like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also liked how he said, like, it's normal for women to want to talk and be open and, like, with communication. But with men, it's totally normal that they just shut down and don't want to talk about it.
Shock.
Yeah.
Like, we already know that.
I had no idea.
Yeah, but I thought that was good that he said that, because he was, he was helping the father and the son to bond together that way. And then he was also helping the mother and the daughter to feel connected in their own way. So I thought that was really cool how he did that.
It was validating, I guess, their roles in the family, that, it's okay because this.
Yeah, like,
who was it that used the word normalizing? He was normalizing it, that, this is the way women and this is the way men, and it's your reaction is a normal reaction rather than.
yeah. So what do we do?
Well, it says the last 15 minutes we are supposed to corroborate on a summary to share it with the group, to make sure that all the teammates agree with the work produced and can help revise it as appropriate.
So
I can write a summary.
do you just want to go through kind of what you have so far and then also email it to all of us so we can?
Yes. Oh, I was going to ask permission if I could go over my notes and write the summary. I have a Relief Society dinner tonight. It's our birthday dinner at our ward, and I have to leave in about 10 minutes to get to that. If I do the summary when I get home and email it out to everyone, because it's not due to be handed in until Saturday. And then that would give Jessica a chance to email me the link for the recording. And I could also double check my notes with the recording. I mean, for Jessica, I can go down the list of what I put for what I got, and then.
I think that's good if you just want to email us, because
Okay.
that'd save time. And
yeah, and that way you guys can read it and you can make. Are you guys familiar with Google Docs?
yeah.
I'll do it in Google Docs, and that way you can edit it. Okay.
Okay.
And that way you can make changes, and when I'll let you know that it's there, and then you can make changes as needed too.
So we can all kind of see each other's changes. And so do we need to mark it up in the markup view, kind of like, or what do you think?
So you actually can just do it and automatically.
Yeah, you can just do it and say, I made changes. Just let us know I made changes, and then the next person can go in. And then once we all agree on the changes that have been made, I just did this for another class and it was really an easy way to do it. Everybody just went in and read it, and then made the note. Just sent an email out of this, and then you saved your copy and sent it to the group. Is that what we did? I don't think that's what we did. I just edited it in Google Docs, and then I let them know that I had the changes that I had made, because I had done some grammar. I had run it through Grammarly, and that was my contribution, was to change the grammar.
Well, yeah, you sound professional. We'll go with that. And I've done this before, and
I don't know. That puts a lot of weight on my shoulders.
If it gets too much, let us know. We can help.
I will make a promise that I will have this out. I probably will get home from Relief Society about 9:00. and I'll have it out before midnight tonight to you guys. I'll write it and have it out to you, and I'll send the email saying, this is it. Go look at it. Okay.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Can I just real quick, could everybody, could I get emails that are the best emails to use?
So actually, Jessica, don't you have us in a group email for school? You could use that one.
Is that
technically.
one okay to use? If everybody's email from there is good,
Yeah.
then that's what I'll use. That's what I'll use. Okay, sounds
Okay.
good.
Thank you,
All right.
everyone.
All right.
All right.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you,
you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.